What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Mobility Minute. We're here for another round. I've heard that some of you are in the thick of Squattober, so I figured it would be a good opportunity now that we're 20 days into October to go ahead and do some lower body, specifically for the hip flexors. Just because when you're squatting a lot, the hip flexors can get a little tight from all that deep hip flexion. So we're gonna try to open up into some hip extension, get those hip flexors right. So all you need is a mat, some floor space, probably some wall space. We'll do some couch stretch variations, and then a lacrosse ball and a yoga block. Let's get started. All right, guys, so we're starting on the floor with our soft tissue work. You can use a yoga block and a lacrosse ball for this portion. I'm gonna use my RAD kit. This thing is great if you want one. I will drop the link in the description, and you can use the code KCRAD to get you 15% off, so that's kind of cool. Comes with a lot of fun little stuff, little peanut, different size balls. But we're gonna take the yoga block and a lacrosse ball, and we're gonna get into our hip flexors. So I'm gonna take the little ball, medium-sized ball. I'm gonna turn the block over, and I'm gonna place the ball into my deep hip flexors. So your iliopsoas is deep to your abdomen. So we're gonna find the high hip bone. That's called your ASIS. And we're gonna go about 2 inches from there. So find that front hip bone, the high hip bone, in the front side, and then we're gonna go just about 2 inches in. You don't wanna go much further than that because then you're just gonna be squishing your organs. We don't need that. We're trying to find that muscle tissue. So you can even take your fingers and dig in a little bit to find it. Before, we're gonna take that ball, we're gonna put it there. We're gonna lay face down on our yoga block. And I'm gonna start with my leg kind of half frogged. Just make it easier to get into that position. There we go. So I'm just laying on top of the yoga block with that ball about 2 inches from that front hip bone. Now I can just sit here if it's already kind of tender, or I can take that leg and move it around. So I can lift it. Ooh, that's spicy. That's kind of advanced. I can also go into some rotation. That deep hip flexor does do a little bit of rotation. I can just slide it up and down from the frog. So whatever tickles your fancy today, whatever feels right. You get pretty used to this, you can start really lifting that leg. And that's kind of a little bit deeper. It's gonna really stretch that hip flexor as that ball's digging into it. And that really works some wonders to kind of loosen up and soften this hip flexor. We're not gonna spend too much time here because I wanna get us on the wall and get us into some more active therapies. We'll get about 30 seconds to a minute on each side. Woo. You can take it out to the side if you want. Get some rotations out there. You're just trying to soften that hip flexor. Just get it to open up a little bit. You can change position if you need to. Ooh, spicy, spicy. You can also, if you do have the RAD kit, one of the things I like about this is it's got a holder for the peanut. So I can do the same thing. Get, oh, yep. Yeah. Get 2 for 1 in there. Just a little more pressure. Ooh. So about 1 high and kind of 1 low on the hip flexor, and that is spicy. We'll go ahead and switch. Just move it to the other side. Same thing, you can start in that frog stance. Find that right spot. And then move that leg around. It's a little spicy, but this is good. Especially if you spend a lot of time sitting. So if most of your day is in a seated position, maybe you're driving, maybe you're office work, whatever, your hip flexors can become kind of short and tight. Just from spending so much time in that shortened position. They basically adapt and the tissue just slowly shortens over time, gets a little bit tight. And it can be hard to get into true hip extension, really open your hip. And in CrossFit, that hip extension, and exercise in life in general, but in CrossFit especially, we really need good hip extension. That's what we need when we do a clean or a snatch, when we stand up a deadlift, right? That opening of the hips on the front side. Oh goodness, this side's spicy. A few rotations. Move that leg up and down. If the lacrosse ball is a little too intense, you can always use a tennis ball. Kind of get you started on it. Tennis ball is just got a little more squish to it. So it's a little less pressure. So that's always a modification you can make. If some of this soft tissue work feels intense, just find something that's a little bit less dense. Tennis ball is a good modification. It's a little bit softer, has a little more give to it. Woo. Okay. All right, so we're gonna move to the wall, and we're gonna do a variation of the couch stretch. Super important stretch. I'm gonna teach you how to do it right, because most people don't really know how to do it. They just end up stretching their quads, which is cool, but we wanna really hit the hip flexors. So let's move to the wall. Just a little bit of wall space, and we'll get set up for our couch stretch variation today. All right, so we're on the wall. We're gonna set up for the couch stretch. Now, the couch stretch is not a passive stretch. So if you're just sitting against the wall, kind of relaxing, you're probably not getting much for your hip flexors. Could be good for the quads, but you're not doing a whole lot to lengthen the hip flexors. You actually have to make it a little bit active to really get in and lengthen out the hip flexors deep in the hip. So we're gonna go ahead and set up, and I'm actually gonna invite you to have a little bit of an angle back here. So don't put the knee all the way against the wall. Instead, get a little bit of distance, so there's a little bit of angle. That way you don't close the knee all the way. Now from here, you can sit up. You may already feel this in your quad. Cool. We want to hit the hip flexors. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about tucking our tailbone and pulling our pelvis and our ribs closer together. So I'm getting a little bit of an abdominal squeeze. Additionally, I'm going to squeeze this butt. When I do that, I should feel that stretch travel up and cross the hip. So now I can feel it right here in the front of my hip. I still feel it in my quad. My knee is bent, my hip is extended, so I'm going to feel it in my quad. However, I feel it a lot more now up in the hip flexor as well. So we're gonna hold for just a little bit. I'll give you about 30 seconds to get acclimated. The whole time, we're pulling this together, we're squeezing our butt. In a second, we're gonna move forward, get a little bit deeper, and then try to pull the heel off of the wall. And that is gonna be intense. It's gonna be intense opening the front side of the hip, but it's gonna be a lot of work for the hamstring as well. You might cramp. It's okay. If you do, I might cramp. We'll see. If you do, stand up, shake it out, or just give your leg a little shake, come out of it for a second, and then try to come back in and get back into it. So now we've got a little bit of time. Get myself positioned. I'm going to slide forward, and I can put my elbows on my knee if I need to, but I'm going to try to sit up nice and tall, because again, the point is to open the hip. I don't want to feel any pinching in the back. That's a big one. So if there's any like arching in the back really hard, try to tuck that tailbone. Keep this hip open. So if you need, you can put your hand or your elbow on your knee. Now, we're gonna pull this foot off the wall by flexing the knee, contracting the hamstring. We're gonna hold for just 5 seconds. Ready, set, go. Keep your butt squeezed here. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, there goes my hamstring. Ugh. If you cramp, which is normal, because you're in such a shortened position, just give it a second, come out, shake it out, go right back into it. Even I cramped. Let's give it a good jiggle. All right, we're gonna do it again. That's the point though. We want that hamstring to work in that very shortened position, really open the hip. Lean forward, chest tall, squeeze the butt, go ahead, lift the foot, hold. 3, 2, 1, put the foot down, relax. When you're here, I want you to think nice and tall, right? I don't wanna fold over around the back. Nice and tall, I'm trying to lengthen this hip in the front side. Let's try to get 3 more. Try to pull that foot off the wall 5 times. Ready, set, lift. 3, 2, 1, relax. Woo, that hamstring wants to cramp. You can feel it. We got 2 more. You can sink deeper. That lunge, once this hamstring is really turning on, that lunge should open up. You might find yourself sinking more and more and more forward. That's a good thing. Lean into it. Here we go. Number 4, ready, set, lift. 3, 2, 1, relax. Nice. Now I'm even more far forward. This is what we want, right? We want this hip to really open up. Let's get 1 more. We're going to squeeze the butt and then pull the leg off with the hamstring. Ready, set, go. 3, 2, 1, relax. Nice and easy. Now that hip is super open. Sometimes just contracting the opposite side force you further into that position. It's kind of like an active stretch. And then we'll just go ahead and switch. Oh, goodness. getting old, y'all. Okay, that's why I do my mobility. Keep me from getting too old. All right, so same thing, let's get used to this position. This side's a little bit worse for me, so in my half kneel, I've got a little bit of space from the wall with the knee, and I'm squeezing my butt, and I'm pulling my pelvis and ribs together. So I'm crunched here in the middle, and I'm squeezing my butt to really open this hip. I wanna feel the stretch travel up towards my core, up in this front hip flexor. So we'll just hang out here for a second. Give me some time to acclimate, and then we'll try to lean forward and do our heel lifts off of the wall. Whew. The real couch stretch, by the way, is actually with the front leg lifted. So imagine like a box in front of me and this front leg being even higher. That's what the real couch stretch looks like. So it's like a very deep groin stretch. I ain't that flexible yet, so we're just gonna keep working with the wall here. All right, hopefully you're a little bit more opened up. We're gonna go ahead and slide forward. Chest is tall. We're gonna pull the foot off of the wall. Ready, set, go. 3, 2, 1, relax. Try to keep that booty squeezed on that side, especially. We want that hip to stay open. If you're having to bend to then pull your foot off the wall, you're probably kind of cheating a little bit. We want to make sure that the hip stays open. No compensations, no cheating. All right, another one. Ready, set, go. Pull that foot off the wall. 3, 2, 1, relax. This side's a little bit better for me. My hamstring's not cramping. Let's try to get 3 more, so we get 5 each side. I'm already starting to slide forward more and more. My hips are starting to open up. Here we go. Number 3. Ready, set, go. Lift that foot. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Keep that butt squeezed. 3, 2, 1. Whoo, I can feel my hamstring wanting to cramp. Ooh, there it goes. Like I said, it's normal if it cramps. Just come out, give it a second, and then go back into it. Sometimes when the muscle is really, really shortened and you try to squeeze really hard, it just cramps up. It's called active insufficiency. It's very normal. All right, 2 more. Nice and tall, squeeze the butt, ready, lift. 3, 2, 1, ooh, relax. I'm gonna go down to my elbow now. I'm starting to slide forward. We'll get 1 more. Hopefully my hamstring doesn't cramp. It's definitely teetering on the edge there. All right, here we go. Last one, ready, set, lift. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, relax. Slide forward the last few inches. Get a nice stretch through the hip flexor. Woo! Not bad. Come out of that. All right. So that's a great way to open up the hip flexors, the deep hip flexors especially. So you can hit that combo after squats or even before, maybe before deadlift, something like that, just to help you get into better hip extension, right? Keep those quads and those hip flexors from getting a little too tight. So good work, and we'll be back next week, probably for some shoulder stuff.